Recording is on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DXdao call. We normally talk about product updates and just recent developments in the DAO here, kind of like a weekly recap, if you will. And typically we start with Omen, if Geronimo is ready to take us there.
Yes, one second. I need to get the GitHub page. Yes, Omen version 1.1.8 got released. The major change is how users create a market. So that was redesigned to kind of fix a few flaws with the previous designs. For example, if a user added a few outcomes to change the probability, they needed to remove the whole item and then re-edit it by typing everything in again. That was changed. So once someone is adding an outcome, they can actually edit the outcome description and the probability on the fly. So that's like hopefully the best UX we can provide. And the button which showed the closing date of the market was too small to actually show the whole date, which sounds like a small issue, but I would argue the closing date is one of the most important things for Omen. So we made sure that it is like absolutely clear what the user put in as a closing date. And another huge fix for that version was that we had a bug where if a user has two outcomes of one market, there was a bug in the redeem function, and that's something we fixed. So glad that we find those bugs before Omen's getting used by millions of users. So that's great. And we have a lot in the pipeline. We onboarded one full-time developer, Jikun, who is already actively contributing, and a new developers like preparing a draft proposal for next week to join the Omen team next. His name is Hexel. So with that, we actually four, five people at Omen. That's amazing. I personally think that's enough. So for Omen, we will just like learn how to work together for the next few weeks and just continue shipping stuff. Scalar markets design are done. Cadence has started to work on the scalar market stuff. And now I'm going to focus on how we bring Omen to DXdao in terms of user experience and user interface.
Good stuff.
Well, I was going to say welcome aboard, Jikun.
Yes, welcome, Jikun. Any questions on Omen? Any other thoughts? Great. Okay, we'll move on to. We have like a live discussion on DXSwap going in Keybase. We'll get to that when we get to DXSwap. But on Mesa side, there's a new release. There's a new proposal that is, I think, boosted now, and everybody should go and check that out and vote on it if they have the time. Two things to note. One is that the balances are now sorting alphabetically, and the big thing is DXdao support. So you'll actually be able to go through Mesa.eth, just switch your network to DXdao and be able to trade and do stuff on DXdao. Cool. I don't know how much liquidity there is at this point on Gnosis Protocol on DXdao, but it's still pretty awesome that we're starting to establish our products on the DXdao chain. I actually think too there's a fuse I didn't. Somebody mentioned this morning. I think Fuse is doing their IDO on Mesa today. I'm not super in the loop on what's kind of that kind of activity. I don't know if anybody has anything to add there.
It's happening in a few hours, I believe.
Good stuff. And I know also, I think PrimeDAO and API 3 are also coming up, I think. I know PrimeDAO just announced theirs for like November 9th. And I forget when API 3's is, but that maybe already happened. Anyways, sorry, I'm not up to date on the Mesa IDOs. Any other comments on Mesa?
Yeah, so on Monday, Christoph from EtherRisk, he spoke during the business development call about ratifying the DIP token listing on Mesa, and it has since, as of like today, I think. So that's a new listing, and it's all because a guy from their community showed up, talked to the DAO, and gave as much information as possible, answered questions, and then the DAO ratified it. So I feel like that's pretty awesome for someone outside the DXdao to come in and like push for something, talk about it, and then like it worked. I think that's just like good governance at work.
That's beautiful. That's what we want.
Awesome. Shall we move on to DX Swap? I think Augusto probably has some stuff to share. I think he's just chatting in the channel. So
yeah, like I share on Keybase, we finally merged the next minor release of DXSwap application. That was done after we did the audit. I think it was 2 weeks ago that we received the audit results from the DXSwap core and periphery contracts. So we did the changes and fixes that we need to do on those blockchain. We can call it like blockchain libraries. That's the ones that hold the smart contracts. Then Federico did a lot of work integrating the token list feature and also merging and syncing our code with the latest code changes from Uniswap. And yeah, after that, we updated the SDK. That is a JavaScript library that we use to connect our decentralized application with the smart contracts, and added the token list and made the deployment on Rinkeby. So we have everything ready to be tested on Rinkeby on the 0.20 version of DXSwap DApp. The idea will be to test on Rinkeby all the behavior of the app, create as many tickets as we can, work on it, and have everything ready for the next deployment that will be hopefully on mainnet and Rinkeby.
And yeah, that's great. And on the governance integration side, Nico is full steam ahead on the relayer and hoping to wrap that up this week, and that would go into audit next week. And there's still development going on, in collaboration with DAOstack on how that scheme is going to work and how the front end is going to work. Anything else to update that? I don't know if you wanted to add anything in there. I know you've had the designs ready and we're kind of just getting through the other dev items before we get to your designs.
Yeah, that's about right.
And then there's a DXSwap call every Friday. That's happening tomorrow. Chris, maybe you want to add something here. There's actually, so I just want to touch on this really quickly. I'm actually looking at the DXSwap Keybase channel right now, and somebody is making the point that if the DAO itself provides liquidity for the DXD pair on DXSwap, i.e. like if we take DXD from the treasury and we put it into DXSwap, this is actually kind of a bad move from the viewpoint of maybe some of the current DXD holders, because I mean, the current market price, I think it's around like 0.3 something, 0.4 ETH or something. The mint price on the DXdao bonding curve is just over 1 ETH. That means that like the average price that people paid from the curve is like 0.5 ETH, and a whole bunch of people paid a lot more than that in between 0.5 and 1 ETH. So you're looking at, like, if we think about our community and who has actually like purchased newly minted DXD, a lot of people paid well above the current market price for that DXD. And the DXD that's in the treasury is not circulating, right? It's currently just not, it's been off the market. It's from the pre-mint. It's just sitting in our treasury. And so if DXdao provides liquidity using that DXD at the current market price, it's equivalent to the DXdao being a market maker at, around the current market price, which is the same as selling more DXD below the bonding curve price, right? So I think it's a very valid point, and something we should consider when we're thinking about adding liquidity to the DXswap pair. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the only argument against providing that much liquidity. Everything else, like, there are also arguments for doing that, like more liquidity stabilizes the price, more liquidity earns more fees, which means we are actually burning DXD. So it's like, it's not the perfect thing where like everyone wins. And of course, yeah, we should listen to what the DXD holders think and say, but yeah, that's up to rep holders.
Yeah, I mean, it is up to the rep holders, but I think it's extremely important to keep in mind, who has basically bought DXD from the curve and protect them.
Yeah. Also, what size of the current DXD supply we are like injecting in the market, right? Because, for example, if we have $25 million of liquidity of DXD circulating, and you add $25,000, it's like isn't I don't know if I would call it insignificant, but it's a very low amount. Like it won't affect the price at all. The
Right.
issue, yes.
Yeah. I think it's possible to kind of beat Uniswap in terms of the depth of the market without injecting a significant amount of liquidity, effectively without selling much from the
Yes.
treasury. Yeah.
Yes. One thing that we can do, let me finish. Just a short thing. One thing that we can do is also burn the equal amount of DXD that we are injecting in the market. That again, I think they are going to be super low. And if the issue here is that people is being able to acquire DXD at the cheaper price, we cannot stop that. Like, there is going to be an automated market maker running on Uniswap all the time. So
exactly, it's already happening. Like,
another idea.
Yeah.
Another idea, though, I mean, there's different ways we can approach this, right? Like, what is the actual goal here? Is it simply to establish a deep market of DXD on DXswap? Like, there's other ways. I mean, another way to approach it that is maybe better for existing DXD holders would be to do like a liquidity incentive program to get the market to be deep. So basically, instead of leveraging the treasury to put the market, we could like incentivize the existing DXD to go there.
I mean, yeah, sure. Like, or do both. Like, raise. Yeah. Augusto, how much can we raise the fee for DXD ETH? Like, what is the highest fee we can set?
120%. No. 10%. Yeah.
20%.
10.
Yeah, we should think about a proper fee, because like, why should we set a proper fee for that? And like, actually do both, like provide liquidity from the treasury, set a proper fee, because that's like very liquid DXD to ETH, and they should pay a premium for that. And additionally do liquidity mining for our DXD holders, which also earn like that high amount of fees, or like Do you guys know what I mean? Like to actually do both. So we like find a good spot between the DAO and the DXD holders.
We're not sure. Well, we've never seen 10% or 5% even fees in a Uniswap type market in the wild. Like that may make no one trade. Who knows, right? 10% is extreme, but we have it set. We have it set lower, 0.1%, right?
I'm not saying we should set it to 10%. I'm just saying it should be like people should pay a premium to sell a lot of DXD at once into the DAO.
Yeah, but then will traders use that? Because you have Uniswap and Balancer and other options to grab liquidity. I'm actually more sympathetic to this line of reasoning than I was expecting just kind of in the chat, because I think if you look at even the like DXD that has come from the treasury, all of that, including like worker compensation ones, I think those are minted at the bonding curve price. So like even the DXD that's coming from the treasury so far has been at whatever the bonding curve. And so this would be, I guess, the first instance where DXD would be coming out of the treasury and putting some, and having a price that is not from the bonding curve. Having said that, I think any kind of option we're considering here, whether it's a DXD incentives or DXdao supplied liquidity, like those are going to involve some type of use of DXD subsidies. And even if we're incentivizing other DXD holders to come in, like what is the price that the DXD issued from the DXdao treasury would be valued at? Presumably less than the bonding curve. So I guess like I'm wondering how we're going to get around the fact that we are using DXD, the treasury's DXD, and that is like, how do we reconcile that with the bonding curve?
We just need the market price of DXD to go up. It solves all our problems.
Also, like, I think DXD holders, at least me as a DXD holder, as soon as I see we're burning DXD or we're just collecting something, I'm like definitely pro providing like as much liquidity as we can for DXswap, because it's like it's the start of having a product and a protocol which will generate fees, which will clearly on chain show how much we are currently burning and how much we will burn. Like, and that's like in general, I don't think we will in general go all in with the plan we had, right? It will be in stages, and like we will not provide 100K in liquidity in one transaction, right? In one proposal. So why not do in stages and see how it works, which we already planned.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a matter of balance here. Obviously, we'll continue this discussion. I just wanted to touch on it because it was like there seemed to be a little confusion in the DXswap Keybase channel. Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of maybe goals that are a little bit at odds, at the current market price, but we can figure out the appropriate balance, right? It's about establishing DXswap, getting protocol fees into the bonding curve, competing to win certain markets, but also, keeping in mind the existing DXD holders and who actually bought on the curve. Anything else from any other thoughts on DXswap before we move on?
I think I don't know if Augusto already said it, but there's like the final Rinkaby version out, and everyone should test, provide liquidity, trade, and as far as I know, we will make sure that there's like an explainer how to test this baby.
Yeah, I need to add the topic on DAO Talk. Also to, I deploy the DX Trust on Rinkaby, so you can also you will be able to get Ether through the Cure on Rinkeby 2. And I have to deploy the instructions to get the ERC20 tokens, Winus, Chinus, Sinus, or that weird name tokens. How to get it on Rinkeby, and yeah, you can test them.
Augusto, do you have time this weekend to like show me how it's done, or does anybody have time to like walk me through so I can actually like write?
Have you used Uniswap?
Huh?
Have you used Uniswap?
Yeah, no. Augusto mentioned he's going to make a DAO talk. It's going to outline how to get these weird tokens on Ring
Oh yeah, the Weenus and the Enos.
And we'll be talking about it. And just ask the questions in the Keybase. Like, I'll be testing it. Other people are going to be testing it. We'll make sure everybody knows what they're doing. And yeah, it'll be fun.
And what's the emoji that?
Well, yeah,
not a burrito.
Yeah, not a burrito, not an Antarctica flag. I choose the money with flags for the Winus, Genus, and Sinus, but yeah, you know, it was a hard choice. The sponge was a tough one.
Hey, Ingemar, did you have in mind to make a tutorial for how to help people test it, or how it works eventually, or
like helping people test it? Like, yeah, you want to try this out on Rinkeby? There's like, here's some steps, because it's not like just, it's not the same exact experience as going to swap.
Yeah.
It will change in the next iterations, but for now it's basically a copy.
Great. And the other product kind of things that we should talk about are Rails, which I think doesn't have any big updates unless I'm missing something. I think the big news there is Federico starts full-time with DXdao next week, and that is exciting.
So well, related to Rails, but and this idea was thrown around in the Keybase. It would be cool to the ERC20 token wrapper for Omen conditional market tokens exists. So you saw that Gnosis put some on Uniswap, but it would be cool to take a market, maybe one that's relevant to DXdao or relevant to Rails or something, or relevant to Loopring, and actually wrap those tokens and put those tokens on Loopring. You could even do some like token, some market related to Rails or Loopring, and instead of, remember how we were saying, if you create a Rails account where we're going to maybe airdrop, or if Loopring does this also, airdrop you $5 or Canadian dollars or something. But if you create a Rails account, we send you one of these incentive-based wrapped tokens, which is actually a wrapped Omen token, and we actually send it out to a bunch of, you know, the top like 50 Rails addresses or something. And then if some event happens, it becomes worth 3 times as much money. Then it can be redeemed for that amount of money. So it's like a marketing, but it's a live use case of Omen conditional tokens on layer 2 Rails, just to prove that it can be done. And that'd be a use case, is give those incentive tokens out as a.
Yeah, that's actually, like, I started to think about it yesterday, but if it's a huge decision for Omen to decide on what kind of layer 2 or sidechain it is going to be. XDAI is like such a riskless bet for us, and it's like we don't need to do any heavy lifting. It's just like redeploying stuff, connecting stuff together, and then it's there. And that's why I was totally pro XDAI. But Loopring is like a huge bet, right? It's a bet that DeFi will be on Loopring.
Yeah, but Geronimo, these are 2 totally separate things, because the use of Omen makes sense on XDAI, and then eventually maybe on optimistic rollups or something. But for sending around wrapped Omen tokens as ERC20s, right now the only place you're seeing those is in Uniswap, where you can interact with them. But Rails, like, people aren't sending ETH to it. We're not sending ETH to each other. We're not sending DXD to each other, but we might send wrapped Omen tokens to each other. Like, that makes more sense.
Got it. So
Around tokens.
yeah, those tokens that don't need to be traded on Loopring. So you're basically just like wrapping outcomes. Let's say Trump wins or something, and then send them to like just celebrities on Rails.
Yeah.
Just to showcase that it's like an ERC20. Okay, I see. So it's not like totally integration or something.
And what would be cool is if the market, we can come up with what that market would be. But if you make it an interesting market, the minute someone gets that token, they're like, oh, if that token only pays out if there's 10,000 Rails users, then everyone who has that token is going to tell all their friends to get on Rails, because then the token's going to pay out.
But what if we send them the wrong outcome?
Well, we sent them the right one.
That's not possible.
Scott, just quickly, is this what Polymarket is doing with Matic? That they're still like relying on Gnosis protocol for the like underlying conditional token, but they're just like wrapping it for a layer 2 solution? Or like, how are they doing it?
So I don't know. Does an exchange exist on Matic? Like, is there a Uniswap on Matic? I don't think
currently. I think they're teasing. I just saw some tweets, so don't quote me, but I think they're teasing the ability to deploy like EVM compatible smart contracts to Matic.
Wasn't that
on their testnet in a few weeks?
Was that Matic or ZK Sync?
Isn't that the same?
No, it's not.
Oh, I can't keep up with all of these guys, and they're bombarding the social media. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I was just specifically in for Polymarket, because like obviously you can like, I think the layer 2 solution of onboarding, sending things is easy, but like the actual trading component, especially for something like prediction markets, I wasn't sure how that was occurring, just because I think they're competitors.
Chris, no. I'm pretty sure everyone, Polymarket and us and everyone, like, we're going to use the Omen the conditional token framework on mainnet to create any of these markets and tokens. Once you have those tokens, you can do lots of things on layer 2 of them. Exactly. It would be surprising. Gnosis would have to deploy the way they're doing on XDAI. They'd have to deploy the framework onto a layer 2 EVM compatible thing, which I don't think exists yet. So
that was like kind of my read. I guess I'm just surprised or impressed by their ability to try to provide a whole prediction market experience while still being tied back to the conditional tokens on mainnet. But
yeah, depending on what whole, because those markets that are on Uniswap, like anyone could easily just buy those tokens, and that's as much of an experience as you need. Like, I think Trump's going to win. I think Trump's going to lose. I can buy it, and it's an AMM market like maker. So they can't create a new market though.
Right, and I don't think that's my read is that that's not a sustainable like structure, because who is providing the liquidity on those Trump or Trump yes or Trump no tokens? And obviously this is kind of where Gnosis comes into play. So what Polymarket is doing, and in a way we're trying to do, is subsidize these things and own the user experience. And so
And with that, like it's 100% like that. Like everyone who's providing liquidity on AMMs for prediction markets is losing money right now. The guys from Augur, they're like wasting so much money. But let's see, like I'm super curious how they actually will make money, and like even more, I'm super curious how they will protect themselves legally against like a lot of a variety of attack vectors from the legal side. So I'm very surprised to see that they actually like got funded so much money. It's good for the prediction market space. So let's see what they come up with.
Right, Geronimo, I'm happy you bring up that regulatory thing. And just a quick note on all of this. First of all, Sky, that idea is really cool, and it's like decoupled from actually prediction market stuff on layer 2, which is saying I think my understanding from what you said is some prediction market with an outcome that is like gameable, or that we're nudging people to affect the outcome, get on rails, and the tokens you get will be worth more. So they don't need to do anything fancy. They just need to get on rails. And we know that any account after 6650, like 6,650 accounts exist today, then we put out this program. All accounts that enter Loopring ZK rollup, or that enter like the Rails code, or like I don't think we have the like when maybe in Federico when we could get that code up there, then we issue them one of these outcome tokens. And then if we get to the 10,000 mark, it pays off. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I think that's really clever. I'm down for something like that. And then the next point that was just wrapping the outcome tokens and putting them on Loopring. We could do that right now. We could have done that 6 months ago, right? Like that is very feasible. It's the new market creation, as you guys said, that cannot be done. We could trade on an order book very fast and cheap and professionally, and have professional market makers make markets today on Loopring's order books on layer 2. The reason that we don't, and this goes for Omen and Gnosis condition, like just in general, and also for Augur, like who I alluded to, we had conversations with a while back. When they relaunched and gas prices coincided with that, like through the roof, they were really interested in using Loopring, but the reason we didn't materialize it is the regulatory risk. Our operator is a centralized thing, and we weren't comfortable running bets or whatever these things are, and like we couldn't do that. So that's like, I would love to be able to put Omen's outcomes, like the wrapped outcomes, on loopring.io right now, or a separate UI called fastpredictions.com, like whatever, which just has maybe a select few of the most liquid ones. The big thing is the regulatory concern here, which as a single operator we cannot do. This goes back to the question of last week. We need the DXdao to be able to run the off-chain relayer, the operator, so we never have these worries. But that's the thing. Like, I really saw this opportunity like pass us by, where we had interest from a lot of things, but we just were prudent and we didn't feel comfortable. There's two things. Putting it on the loopring.io UI, okay, but that's easy. Someone could just fork it, get rid of every trading pair, and just have Trump market. It could be called Trump, trumpbet.com, and it's one single order book. So then they're running the UI, and we don't have that worry, but we're still running the operator. We are matching the stuff and doing it. Then the question is, could we license the relayer as a service, which is something we want to do. But even that is kind of risky. We have to like upkeep it. The point is that regulatory is a real risk when you have this single operator. So it definitely goes back to last week's thing. But yeah, that's like the current state of affairs. And please keep in mind, with Loopring version 3.6, we could support AMM markets of the conditional tokens as well. So easier liquidity, passive liquidity. But still, at the end of the day, everything is getting rolled up and snarked or proven by a single thing. And unwillingness of like a team to be liable for that is like the the big point right now. So yeah, that's like the state of affairs on our end with all this L2 prediction market stuff. I hope that, bring it full circle quickly, I hope that what you mentioned, Sky, is actually very easy and not like a regulatory gray area saying, if we're even allowing like the shuttling of an outcome token on Rails, not like trading that market, but even just like putting that token there and then moving it among people. It's just such a gray area. Like as Geronimo was saying, I'm just so, and anyway, those are all the considerations from this end.
That's great background, Matt. Is the token list curated for Rails and for Loopring curated by someone, by Loopring?
Yeah, it's a really informal, hey, the community is demanding this, let's do it. We're also a bit dragging our feet because there's only 256 token slots in the current Merkle tree, but whatever, forget about that. In a month, there's going to be 65,000. In version 3.6, token limit won't be an issue for several years. So we definitely want to outsource the curation of it. Like we don't want to be handling it. We could hand that over. We could hand that over to LRC holders. Like it's really undefined, and the DXdao is actually going to be instrumental in helping us define this. But maybe it's LRC, maybe it's just DXdao that controls that list. But the thing is, L2, it's a bit difficult. We can't just hand over control because let's say the DXdao wanted to hurt us or whoever these curators were, they could allow the passing of a token that's like deflationary that messes with a layer 2 environment where like, shit gets burned and then the balances don't match. Like there's some things that we just can't allow. So let's say the community either unwittingly or maliciously wants to put in a token that would like self-destruct onto the rollup and hurt users, like something else gets drained. I don't know all the attack vectors. We still need like a final eye, like our CTO or something that says, yes, this will not blow up the entire system. So thank you, community curators, this passed. You know what I mean? But we can't fully hand it over because then it could blow up the system. Yeah.
Cool. That's super interesting. Thanks, Matt. All right, just to, I guess, move things along here on the governance side of things, kind of like the last product update. There is still, the testing for the ERC20 guild, which can lead to a DXD guild, basically a voting interface for DXD to have some stake in rep, and that's being completed this week. That is getting lined up for audit soon. And there's ongoing work from DAOstack in collaboration with some of the DXdao folks to add the multi-call interface and continue evolving the platforms there. I don't know if anybody wanted to add anything there. There's also a proposal on XDAI to add a plugin for the token registries on XDAI as well. The first use case being, since Mesa is now supporting XDAI, the XDAI base for DXdao will control the tokens that are listed on Mesa for XDAI specifically.
Yeah, just regarding the multi-generic call, I think we've had like a couple of like back and forth with the contracts themselves, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do with security in these kind of, especially schemes that can do a lot of things. And yeah, like we went back, but one kind of like unpredicted thing that happened is kind of like a more involvement of some of DAOstack guys in the security of DXdao, and I think and I hope this will create a sort of security working group or security strategy working group for DXdao, and yeah, so that's just that. So something good that came out of all this backwards and forwards.
Yeah, and on the backwards and forwards thing, there was an audit of the multi-call scheme, which was completed, but then there was another iteration on this multi-call scheme to try to add a little more flexibility. But that's where we kind of got a little bit back and forth because, you know, when that iteration got audited, there was some pushback from the auditor that, hey, this sort of, it doesn't work the way you want it to work. So we're still trying to kind of figure out how to make the multi-scheme, you know, flexible, but also secure. And yeah, it would also be great to involve DAO Stack folks more deeply with the DXdao security efforts. I think, you know, there's a whole bunch of things going on the security side. We don't talk a lot about it on the weekly calls, but there is a bunch of stuff going on. And I think we'll probably be trying to take a deeper look at some of this stuff and making sure that things are, you know, well covered, buttoned up, everything. You know, we're thinking of different angles. Phil has been doing a great job auditing some of the smart contracts that we've been rolling out. And, you know, I think some of the thinking is here that will involve him with DXdao, with DAO Stack, and do even more comprehensive reviews of our kind of security posture as a DAO and for the products as well. All right, great. So getting a little late here. Let's move to the recap of the calls. I know, Ingemar, you had talked a little bit earlier, but maybe just round out the biz dev stuff.
Right. So we had someone from Ethereum come by, speak on listing the DIT token, which it did. And we spoke quite a bit on where to take the products regarding XDAI. And I think there was some positive, I guess, positive like reaction towards like the idea of putting, I guess, focusing on only on XDAI. It became just more like a strategy talk regarding that.
Yeah, EtherRisk is super cool. Awesome project. Obviously, insurance is kind of a hot topic with DeFi, and Nexus Mutual has kind of dominated that. But EtherRisk it's been around for a long time, so it'd be cool to see what they do. Chris, do you want to cover the governance call? I think there was some important stuff, as usual, that been said.
Yeah, so kind of three main things discussed. First, discussion on the voting gas or the gas refunds for governance processes. Nico had run the script for the last 6 weeks, and we went over some of the numbers on that and then looked at the category breakdown for each of the proposals and seeing where most of the proposals were coming from. Next, second, talked about XDAI, XDXdao, or some other name that we're still coming to. So a lot of discussion on that. Sky's got a working document that he's prepared to kind of go over some of the things that we can do on the XDAI, DXdao base. I think figuring out some of the I guess figuring out some of like the immediate marketing ideas or competition schemes or things that we can use for XDAI, DXdao. And I think as we were talking earlier, a lot of XDAI, DXdao's role or things that we'd be doing could be focused on some of the products that are going on there, and hopefully XDAI will develop further, and there'll be more liquidity that comes on, and we'll learn a lot from what it's like to have a separate DXdao, a colony, some type of relationship. And then the third thing we discussed was the Governance 2.0 working group proposal, which I submitted as a proposal last night. And then I'm crafting an email and we'll send around to people there on trying to move forward with that. The proposal, I thought I boosted it, but it is still not even gone to pending boosting. And I also had the same thing happen in XDAI, so I don't know if I'm capable of boosting proposals very well. But yeah, that as I said, that proposal started. Hopefully we'll get past the end of next week, and then hopefully the beginning of the following week we'll start that Governance 2.0 working group, which should be around 6 to 8 weeks. And of course, just to kind of address some of the long-standing, maybe structural sustainability, governance sustainability issues, particularly around kind of the alignment of DXD and rep long-term.
Yeah, the governance 2.0 working group, kind of as like one of the points in the 5-point plan is really kind of this important kind of long-term existential, matter, and it's going to be completely open for all the calls will be open for people to see and follow, and and the working group itself is actually still kind of open to be adapted, right? So if anybody feels strongly about this, they should kind of speak up and check out the DAO Talk forum post.
Yeah, and the way that I think of like the working group, and I know we've talked about this, the security one, bonding curve, a lot of different ideas. I think it's all about creating momentum, right? So it's not so much about like carving off something and everyone leaving and going to work on a problem and then coming back to report the community. Instead, I think we're just like, well, what can we do to kind of bring everyone together, get the ball rolling, and then kind of let it go that way. So hopefully this will be a way of building some of that initial inertia.
Also, I want to mention I quite enjoyed Chris's talk from the Liquidity 2020 Summit. It was kind of at a weird time for America anyways. It was like Sunday night, but I have a link here. People can see the chat. It's the Liquidity 2020 Summit, and the DXdao is in the title. It's the ID is 70, and yeah. It's shared on Twitter as well from the DXdao Twitter, and I highly recommend it. I think Chris did a great job kind of talking about DXdao and where we are and position relative to the other stuff. Yeah.
Just to give a quick blurb, it's about reputation-based governance, which I really think as we kind of get further along in building out governance processes and just having different interactions, I really think the reputation-based governance is one of the huge things that distinguishes DXdao from other projects in the space, and I think that's something we should lean into and try to push that narrative throughout the ecosystem.
Cool. So we have 10 minutes left till the hour. Is there anything else people would like to bring up? Guess we covered it. Nothing, no hot topics here. All right, great. I don't have anything else. So if that's it, we can wrap up early here. Thanks everyone for joining.
Sure.
Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. See you guys.